How we doing today, gang? On today's agenda, we are going to be correcting some slop in the shifter box. And what kind of slop am I talking about? I'm talking about either that side-to-side slop or that front-to-back slop, known as horizontal and lateral. Now, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be taking care of, see this right down in there? It's kind of difficult to see, but if you look, you'll see that there's all this play. Now, that's not supposed to look like that. What happens on the inside of the car, like that, is this. See all that? Not so much the side to side, and I'll show you why we don't have that side to side. Okay, but even when you're in gear, see that? Now the reason that this happens is because this right here, where all that play happens, it's not supposed to look like that. There's supposed to be a bushing around this plastic spiky thingamajiggy over here that looks like that. Now you see how that's got that urethane bushing around it, and there's not any of that play. See that? You see how nice and, yeah, it's not going anywhere. So you can see a tremendous difference. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove that arm that bushing is attached to, which is this 13 millimeter nut here. I've already loosened it up. Now you might need to use some penetrating oil or some heat on there because it's a bitch. I'm not gonna put it any other way than that. It's a bitch. And when we get to the bottom, there's a retaining clip, and I will show you how we deal with that when we get there. So you're gonna get a 13 millimeter, you're gonna get it on a bunch of extensions, you're gonna get it on this. I actually only use 2 extensions because I have the right tools. So this is what I used. Okay, that's what we're looking at. Get to work, gentlemen. I'll see you in a little bit. Actually, that was very uncool of me. Get to work, people. What I forgot to point out to y'all is that the shift weight, which is a part of your linkage, needs to be disconnected on that end. Now some of them just press in to the bushings, some of them have the cotter pin. This style has the cotter pin, so what I do is I just take a Torx driver. That one happens to be a T15. It fits right in that little opening on the back side of the pin, and if I can get this to stay there, maybe you guys can see me do this. And I again apologize for my shoddy craftsmanship, or camera work I should say, because I'm not a camera person and this is all kind of new to me, and it's not easy really sometimes, so I do apologize. But look at that, see that little pin? Slide that out and you're good to go. Put the pin someplace safe. I like to use my rain tray. And there we have it, folks. So, this guy, okay. Now, as you can see, and as you'd imagine, from having all kinds of use and stuff, this connection, which is normally a nice little slide fit, you see it's got like that little rectangular boss that slides into the arm to give it control when it moves. It's gotten a little jammed up. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get a pry bar, a tiny little breaker bar underneath there, and give it a little leverage. But before I do that, I I'm going to use a little bit of liquid wrench or a penetrating oil of your choice. I like the old-fashioned stuff. So I'm going to go get that, and we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so as promised, this is the retaining clip on the bottom of that arm. Now, as you can see, it's crusty, and it's probably going to take a little bit of love to get that thing off, but I don't have a choice, so I'm going to get to work on that. I'm imagining that with most of these things, you put a flat blade in there, pop it off. I'll get back to you on it. Alright, so as you see, right here is the top of the shifter relay shaft. Okay? This sucker is what used to sit in there, causing all the slop. Comes out to the top, boom. There's a bunch of steps that I kind of forgot to record while I was doing them, but what I'm going to do is try to catch up to speed. So basically what happened is I pulled that clip out from the bottom. When the bushings are nice and supple and good and rubbery, they're supposed to slide on and off this sucker pretty easily, but they didn't. So in order to get it to drop, to remove what's left of the bad relay bushing, I had to destroy the stiffened, hardened, crappy shot plastic bushing anyway. Now, luckily, what happened was when I drove it through, just enough of the shoulder stayed where when I put it back up and put it through here with a washer, that bushing should hold for a while until I can get a rebuild kit. Because what I'm doing to replace this one is going to be something a little different. They've got a replacement one that's made out of Durlin, which is even harder than polyurethane, for like 20 bucks. 20 bucks is a lot to spend on a bushing, even though I'll probably never have to replace it again. Hell, nobody will ever have to replace it again. But what I'm going to do is do something a little bit homemade in that kind of fashion. I'm going to use an old, really small 1990s era skateboard wheel. I might have to turn it down on the lathe a little bit to get it sized up for fitting in this little pocket and getting rid of that slop action, but it's going to be okay. One way or another, we're going to fix the problem. Now, everything that I was finding, everybody was dropping this lever out, and you'd have to destroy the bottom bushing to do that. Now, the bottom bushing, although hard, is not brittle. It's in one piece, and it's stuck on there, and I'm not going to mess with it. I was able to get this to drop, which gives me enough space to get this out and replace it down here. Get everything back in, boom, boom, ba-doom, and we'll have less slop in the shifter. Hopefully it works. I'll keep you guys posted. See you in a bit. So instead of sitting around and just waiting for a bushing to arrive to try to fix this problem, I went ahead and poked around in the parts bins to see if I might have had a solution, and I think I came across something that's going to work. One of the reasons why I'm always telling all of you to save parts whenever possible unless they're completely destroyed or shot is because you never know when you're going to A, need them, or B, be able to repurpose them. Now this is a front sway bar bushing, and if I'm not mistaken, it's off a 2-liter. Now the thing is, I always save these as long as the center part of the bushing is okay, because to find the collars, the rubber collars chewed up a little bit or split is not uncommon. But it doesn't mean that the bushing itself is bad. So one of these will get you by in a pinch if you come across one that's completely deteriorated or you have a buddy that needs one or whatever. This one, there's the part number, if you get a look at that. This one is going to be giving you life, hopefully, as a shifter relay bushing. Whether temporary or as long as it goes. I mean, I'm kind of curious to see how long this thing is going to last. So I think what we're going to do is a little find out about it along the way. In the words of the old hot rodders, you make do with what you got. You don't complain about what you don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim these collars off, the shoulders. Probably going to just cut along the inside of the bushing to get rid of the crack altogether instead of trimming it down flat, because that'll leave the crack. and maybe cause it to split a little bit more. And then what I might do, just to seal it up a little bit and prevent any, cracks from furthering, I might just zap it with a torch real quick, hit it with the MAP gas, kind of just meld the edges. We'll see what happens with that. I'm gonna go trim this thing off. I'm gonna see if it'll fit and install. But this might be a solution if you can't come across one of those shifter bushings, the shifter relay bushings, which can run upwards of like 20, 25 bucks. You might be able to get away with purchasing a few dollar aftermarket sway bar bushing and doing the same deal. I was going to use a skateboard wheel, but this might work even better. I'll let you know what happens. Well, gang, we have success. This makeshift bushing fits beautifully, actually. Fits really nicely. Kind of curious to see how long this lasts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put everything back together and then record more for you to see what the progress is, how the shifter box feels, what the slop looks like, if there's any kind of binding issues, all that good stuff. I just wanted to give you the update that this fits, man. This fits well. This works well. Let's see what we've got here. Okay, I'll check back with you in a bit. All right, so as you see, we've got the shifter arm back on. We've got the shift weight connected from the shift box to the transmission. And if you look really close in there, let's see if we can get a good shot. There is our homemade shifter relay bushing made from the center of the old one that had fallen apart around the plastic sleeve and a sway bar bushing. Let's see what happens. And you remember how much slop we had in there. As the professionals call it, play. Now let's see what we have here. Look at that. That's crazy. It's a world of difference. Oh man. Yeah, no complaints. None whatsoever. That's fantastic. So now what we're gonna do is wait till this thing's on the road, which with DMV being closed the way it is could be, I don't know how long. But I gotta charge the battery on this anyway. So I'm gonna charge the battery overnight, and we might take this for a quick spin tomorrow. But just to let everybody know, this is how a shifter is supposed to look. You're in gear.